Yo, what's goody? Let's get it going. Let me see if I can get some people in the chat. We back. Oh, talking Nets. Let's go. Gigantor 1024. I see you. Waiting for some people to pull up, and then we'll start it because, it's been a while. So I will fill y'all in on where I've been and what I've been up to and what the deal is. Let me make sure my sound is good. Yo, okay. I see Jared in the chat. Brooklyn Nets 11. You know I'm here. What up, bro? And good. Okay. Sound is fine on my end. We are recording on my end. I'll give it another minute or two. I always remember this one comment that I got where someone was watching the YouTube and they were like, takes too long for the show to start. I'm like, bruh, we literally pull up myself, Hudson, whatever guest, and we have a pre-show green room, I don't even know what to call it, before we jump into the show. I go live and I talk to the chat and I chill before I actually start recording the pod, but that's neither here or there. We'll get started in 1 minute. Let's see who we got in the chat. What up? Okay, I already shouted out Brooklyn Nets 11. Gigantor, good looks, brother. Feels like forever. No talking Nets. You telling me? I will explain. Jared Williams, my guy. Appreciate you, yo. Robert, what's good, Keith? Glad to see you doing well. Appreciate you. Real Toxic Keith on personal Twitch. Didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, I'm streaming this on my personal Twitch right now, which I think eventually will turn into Talking Nets on Twitch. Letting some info out. Justin Michelson, Twitchy, we back, baby. Big shout out to my guy, Twitchy. Welcome back and congratulations on everything. David, 824, Kobe, appreciate you. All right, we'll get into it. Keith, congrats on the new gig. Happy for you. Thanks. All right. Recording here. Do I have notes? I have notes, but not too many because I just want this to be real. I want this to be like a catch-up. I want this to be updates, fill y'all in, and then we'll take voicemails. There were a couple voicemails that came in. I'll play the voicemails, and we'll talk Nets. And you guys know if you listen to Talking Nets, I don't like to talk about more than 2 games per episode. I hate when someone tries to talk about a week worth of games. It's like, you guys have already forgotten about the Suns game. We'll talk about it. And, of course, we'll talk about the New York Knicks. Talking Nets will exist because this is going to be the only place that I can really talk Nets and hate on the Knicks or be honest about the Knicks. I can't do that on New York radio. Most of the people listening are Knicks fans. The Knicks have been here for 90 years. The Nets have been here for 9. All right, so let's get into it, folks. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Talking Nets, episode 134. Keith McPherson, Dolo. It's been a while. It's been literally a month. The last episode came out November 2nd, and I had a lot going on, which I'll explain on the pod. But I set a date for December 2nd saying, all right, this is the last month of the year. I got to come back. I got to give some updates. I can't leave the Talking Nets crew, the TN fam, in the dark on what's going on with Talking Nets and what's to come for Talking Nets. So that's what this episode is going to be. But, of course, we're going to talk Nets. I got some voicemails, and we'll talk about 2 games. The Suns game, which I was at last Saturday, and then the Knicks game that just went down this past Tuesday. The Nets are on top. We're in first place. Nothing to complain about. Don't let people tell you we're the worst 15-6 team ever. That's what a hater's got to say. Talking Nets. Let's get it.
We go hard. 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 We go hard.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 134. Back after a month. Nets on top. Keith McPherson joining you on Thursday night as the sun is setting, approaching 4:30 here in Jersey City, not far from New York City, not far from Brooklyn. Your Brooklyn Nets are on top. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. Being in first place means something. It didn't mean anything after the first few games of the season when people were screenshotting standings in New York for the other team being in first place. Now, all of a sudden, it's a little different. We're 15-6. We're handling business. We're finding ways to win games versus the old Nets who would find ways to lose games and unravel. I am fine with this team as currently constructed. We know this wasn't the team that we expected to have at this point. We know who's out and who's missing. With that all being said, let me pause on the Nets talk and the roster talk and talk to you guys, the listeners, the people watching on YouTube, the people watching on Facebook and Twitch now. Talking Nets is alive and will continue. Now, I gotta be real with y'all. I have to be transparent as well. I took a month off because baseball ended, and my wife said, when baseball ends, which literally means like the World Series and the parade, because I'm a Yankee fan, so baseball to me doesn't end until the parade and the World Series, because I always think there's a chance that the Yankees could be in it. But I got married in July. My wife said as soon as baseball ends, I'd like to go on our honeymoon because I'm a baseball guy. I dragged my wife to Colorado right after our wedding. Literally the day after our wedding, we were in Colorado for the All-Star game. So that was, I think, like November 7th through 11th. I think I came back from my honeymoon in Puerto Rico on the 12th. I think while I was out there, I saw us play against the Pelicans on my phone. I was trying to disconnect, but you know I can't do that. I saw us lose to the Bulls. Luckily, we'll run it back against them this coming Saturday. And I think the last game I saw before I came back was OKC when Joe Harris sprained his ankle. I think I came back that weekend. Also that weekend was a wedding for one of my brothers, one of my fan cave brothers, which means the whole fan cave was in New York City. I had 3 people sleeping at my house, so I couldn't do work. I couldn't pod. I couldn't clip. I had to entertain my friends as we celebrated a wedding for my boy Dan, who is literally my brother, one of my best friends. What happened after that? Now we're in the middle of the month, like November 15th. The WFAN announcement goes out. Steve Summers' replacement, Keith McPherson. Whoa, no, don't say that. Basically, the New York Post writes that I'll be replacing Steve Summers on WFAN. That goes crazy. A bunch of people hitting me up, a bunch of things going on. And then I started officially on November 15th at WFAN. That was my first day. I was on Boomer and Geo the 16th. I was on Moose and Maggie the next week. It was honestly an overload, a whirlwind of everything. I'm telling you, like every person that I've ever known tried to reach out via text, Facebook message, something to congratulate me, which is cool. But imagine your phone blowing up nonstop as you're trying to meet your new coworkers, as you're trying to do paperwork, onboarding stuff, get familiar with your new gig and your new job. Now, I took a full-time role to be the next on-air host at WFAN. You guys probably all know that now. If you didn't, you just heard me say that. Talking Nets was a part of John Boy Media, and that's where I was working full-time for the last 2 years. John Boy gave me an opportunity to start Talking Nets. Without John Boy's idea and without John Boy allowing me, right? John Boy had the idea, hey, man, you're coming over here to us. At first, I did not have a full-time role at John Boy Media. I had an opportunity. Jimmy gave me an opportunity to build Talking Nets. I started to build Talking Nets, and then I came on later, a couple months in, as a full-time employee as the company grew and as things changed and they were able to put me on payroll. Okay, fast forward to 2 years. In that time, I pulled Hudson Flynn in with me as an unpaid intern. Hudson Flynn and I built this whole thing, the whole branding, right? Everything that you saw from Talking Nets was a 2-man show and a third guy, Twitchy, who does our videos and would literally help wherever he could. But really, Talking Nets was Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn for about 2 years. We went through the pandemic when the season stopped. We went through the bubble. We went through last year, which ended in the Bucks eliminating us, and we went to the draft, and all of that until around, I think, the start of this season. And then you guys heard that Hudson was no longer going to be a part of this thing. And I made sure to tell you that that wasn't my idea. That wasn't my decision. It was over my head. It was business. Things in business are evolving and changing. At John Boy Media, at WFAN, at any business. Go and look. 2020 shook up the world. We're about to be at the end of 2021. Things are evolving and changing, and people have made business decisions. I say that to say this. Talking Nets is no longer a part of John Boy Media. John Boy Media is a great growing company. I have lifelong friends over there. I can't wait for the future to see what happens with John Boy Media and baseball. Baseball is locked out right now, and they're crushing it with the trolling and the lockout pods and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, John Boy Media is a baseball company, and it's a New York sports company. You see Talking Yanks over there, Talking Knicks over there, Talking Giants. Us Nets fans are always this afterthought, off-brand. New York will never really accept us. You guys have heard it all. So instead of trying to, I felt like I just kept trying to work uphill at John Boy Media with Talking Nets. There's so many shows and brands and things under John Boy Media. Talking Nets, for me, wasn't high enough on the totem pole and wasn't getting the attention I felt like it deserved. But you know where it got the attention? From the outside world, from people like you guys that listen to the pod, that subscribe to the YouTube, that follow us on Instagram. We had 14 to 15, I think, 1,000 followers on Twitter. And unfortunately, Hudson got our account suspended. I'm just playing. He did, but it's not his fault. And I went through a lot to try and get it back. It's something I didn't really tell you guys too much about on the pod, but I have a friend that I used to work with at MTV. She works at Twitter now. She's higher up. And I worked with her, and I tried to get the account back. And the only way to get that account back is to get Universal Music to basically take the suspension off, because they flagged us for using Pop Smoke's music. If you guys remember, we used to post Dior and dance videos after every game. You guys know. You know what it was last season. That got our account killed. But imagine we still had that account. I do imagine a world where I meet someone, maybe through WFAN, maybe through radio, maybe through the Nets, whatever, that can connect me with Universal Music, and I can talk to them where they say, oh, you guys didn't hurt anybody. Here's your account back. If that happens, which I'm planning on it happening in 2022, boom, we get a 14,000 follower Twitter account back. We also have an Instagram account with 5,000 followers. We have this YouTube account that you're watching on right now that is approaching 1,000 subscribers and then can soon be monetized. I'm also going to change my Twitch into Talking Nets Twitch. We're not done. I own Talking Nets right now. Now, I could LLC it as Talking Nets LLC, maybe put it under the McPherson brand. But what I would like to do is expand and bring in more talented Nets fans that do what I do and do what Hudson does. I can't speak for Hudson Flynn, but he's the first person that I would like to invite back. He's the first person I'd like to bring on board for whatever comes with Talking Nets podcast and Nets fan brand. I can't call it. If you're listening to this and you're interested in social media, clipping, creating graphics, speaking on the podcast, going to the games, covering the Nets, reach out to me. I put out a tweet last week where I said Talking Nets will return. Talking Nets just needs a new home, needs a new team, needs some new hosts, new energy. I fought for Talking Nets to survive through 2020, through 2021, and now we're going into 2022. I own it. It's my podcast. It's my brand, and I can bring on whoever I want. Now, can I pay these people? I can't pay anyone just yet. But if we put in the work and we grind and we do what we're supposed to do for the Nets world, there's going to be money attached to it. And that's why I say I'd like to bring it somewhere. I'd like it to be an official podcast of the Brooklyn Nets. Or maybe we go to Nets Republic. Or maybe it becomes an Odyssey podcast. I don't know. I don't have those answers for you yet, but I'm working on it. That work started in November. That's why I took some time off, because I'm like, there's no reason to pod. There's no reason to keep things going, and I don't know where we're going. There's also no reason to put the work in that I was putting the work in when I stopped working for the company that was hosting the podcast, and now I'm working for a new company that does not pay me to do Talking Nets. They allow me to do Talking Nets. They're all for it. Honestly, I don't think I get the WFAN gig without Talking Nets as a platform to talk NBA, basketball, Brooklyn Nets. So we're going to keep it running. We're going to keep it going. If you'd like to be down, like I said, reach out. You don't have to reach out now, but at some point say, hey, Keith, I'm interested in writing. I'm interested in tweeting or posting on Instagram. I'm interested in talking on the mic or doing some content or creating some videos around the Brooklyn Nets. Like, I really like Cam Thomas. I want to do a feature on him every week. Come talk to me. I'm interested in it, and I'm literally making a space for Nets fans to come and create content and keep this brand going, because we need this. There's not enough Nets accounts, but there is. Now there's a few more podcasts. There's a few more places where you can find Nets content, but there's a specific style and voice and way that Hudson and I crafted Talking Nets, and I think people really enjoyed it, and we want to get back to it. I want to get back to clipping the games. I want to get back to being live during the game, and our Twitter feed has all the highlights. Our Instagram has reels and stories and all the clips from the game where you can literally come and see me talking about the Nets. I literally, in the last game, was in WFAN on a live Twitch stream. I want to do live Twitch streams during the game. I want to do different types of content at the arena. I want to do a lot of different things. I have a lot of different ideas, but I'm one person. And I say that to say, I forget who it was, Scouts English. He was like, hey, man, we're not getting the same amount of podcasts and news and updates and content from Talking Nets like we used to. And I'm like, well, yeah, Hudson isn't here, and I'm the only one here. And if you can kind of tell, it's been a crazy couple months for me. I don't have the exact time to be locked in on Talking Nets every day, but I will. So I hope that gives you guys a better understanding. I hope that fills you guys in. I hope you guys forgive me for taking a month off. I hope you checked out the Glue Guys or Nets Kingdom or Brooklyn Netcast or Fireside Nets or whoever else is out there. Before I went on this break, I brought on Brooklyn Netcast. I brought on Spen from Fireside Nets. I would love to work with the Nets Kingdom guys. I would love to do a collab with the Glue Guys. There's not many of us, but there's plenty of us, and we got to keep going. We got to keep going and growing with this team. And through this KD era, it would make no sense for Talking Nets to die in 2021 after being established in 2019, the season that we had Kyrie, no KD, no Harden, and then the next season we get all three, and now here we are with KD and Harden, no Kyrie. This story is not done yet. There is a lot more to write. There's a lot more to cover, a lot more to do, and a lot more to be seen for your Brooklyn Nets. And Talking Nets will be here. I can promise you that. As long as I'm walking around, I'm repping Talking Nets. One thing I'll say, go get that merch, right? I think right now there's a promo code on the John Boy Media website for like 21 or 20% off. John Boy Media is still hosting our merch. They're still available for you to purchase. If there's anything you like on there, go grab it now. That might change at the end of the year because, like I said, moving forward, Talking Nets is no longer John Boy Media. It's just a Keith McPherson podcast, and I'm gonna build and bring different people in, and we'll go from there. All right, let me jump in the chat and see what you guys are saying, because there might be a question I can answer, or there might just be something that I wanted to address. Let's see. No, not too much. You guys are talking amongst yourselves. I appreciate you guys, straight up. So let's go now and talk about the Nets. So, like I said, I was in Puerto Rico in the beginning of November. The Nets are in first place. Don't let anybody tell you that being in first place, you're the worst first place team. That's stupid. That literally makes no sense. The worst first place team, you're the best team in the East if you're in first place. I don't care if we've stumbled against better competition. It is early in the season. We're just getting into the third month of the season. We haven't even played, 25 games yet? That's all yet to be seen. So let's go over the games that I missed. From November 3rd, the Hawks game. That was the debut of the City Edition gear. I shed a Nets fan tear at the arena that night. Seeing the court, I bought a KD jersey in there, the shorts, the hat. I copped the jacket. I got a bunch of stuff. I got the pennant coming. That'll be up on the wall soon enough. I love it. As a New Jersey kid and a New Jersey Nets fan growing up rooting for Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Keith Van Horn, Vince Carter, Richard Jefferson, even Marbury and them, you know what I'm talking about. It's cool to see the Brooklyn Nets finally honor the New Jersey heritage, history, and pay homage to the roots in East Rutherford. And I know someone told me on the radio last night, they're like, the Nets didn't come from New Jersey, they came from New York. Yeah, we know that. We know that, Julius Erving, Dr. J. But I'm from Jersey. There's a lot of fans from Jersey that appreciate the Nets repping. The Nets beat the Hawks that night, 117-108. And in the Brooklyn Brigade, we were chanting, not the Garden, not the Garden. Shut Trae Young down, shut the Hawks down, and kept it rolling. Win streak. The next game, Detroit Pistons. We go and beat them in Little Caesars Arena, 96-90. Keep on rolling. Win ugly. It doesn't matter if it's a team that we're supposed to beat and you beat them by 1 point or 100 points. It doesn't matter. A win is a win. Stack wins. These are regular season wins you have to stack. Then we roll on and beat Toronto in Toronto, 116-103. Just getting it done. KD goes on a tear all month. KD is your player of the month for November. We lose to the Bulls. I remember that game because it was later at night for me, and we were playing pretty well with the Bulls, and the Bulls are a top team. And then when it got to the fourth quarter, it was just like, if KD can't save us, we're not going to win. We kind of unraveled, fell apart. The Bulls end up beating us and breaking that win streak. I think we had like a 7-game win streak. So the Nets lose 118-95 to the Bulls in Chicago. And on that road trip, we start another win streak. We go to Orlando. We beat the Magic 123-90. Then we beat the Pelicans. I remember Joey Buckets going crazy that night. 120-112 W against New Orleans. Then we beat the Thunder. And Joey Buckets goes down. Oh, no. Sprains his ankle. But we still get the win, 109-99. The Cavs always play us tough, but we battle and we find ways to win. What happens after that? My first day at WFAN, November 16th, I get to go to the WFAN suite to watch Steph Curry and the Warriors come into the Barclays Center with a bunch of little kids wearing blue and yellow jerseys screaming, Steph, 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 Steph Curry, Curry, over here, Curry. Steph is the man like that. Anywhere he goes, he's going to have a bunch of little kids because Steph is these kids' Kobe. He's these kids' Jordan. Understood. Championship pedigree, a guy that changed the game. The Nets don't have enough to beat that team. That was a nationally televised game on a Tuesday, and the Warriors were disrespectful with it. I mean, I was up above the Warriors bench. Steph was on the court celebrating in the third. He barely played the third from what I remember. And then they closed this out. And something that I wanted to say on the pod, I actually went on this other Nets pod to say this, was don't read into people talking about what goes on in our arena that aren't in our arena. There's enough content creators and people on Nets Twitter and with podcasts and that do other things like myself that are at the game. We can tell you what happened in the arena. We can tell you who was chanting what. I just told you there was a bunch of little kids cheering for Steph. They made a big deal about Steph getting MVP chance in the fourth quarter at the Clays. Well, I'll tell you this. I was in the suite, and then I also went and joined the Brooklyn Brigade. The Brooklyn Brigade, every single game, every game that I've been at this season, as soon as KD gets fouled and goes to the line, they start up the MVP, MVP. As soon as KD's ready to hit his little shimmy and raise up with the ball, the chants are done. It was a copycat thing. The Warriors fans in there waited until they were up enough until some Nets fans left the building, other fans left the building. They got the MVP chants going for Steph. They weren't rocking through the building, but what people don't realize is when you're watching the game, it is produced. It's television production. There are microphones and cameras set up in Barclays that aren't usually set up in Barclays when TNT and ESPN are there, and they have people in the production booth or truck, wherever they are, that can control those microphones and where they turn them up. And in my humble and honest opinion, I have been able to see the difference between the Yes Network and TNT and ESPN because we do clip the games. We do clip them and have the sound. And when other fans are in our arena, it plays to the national audience to turn up the volume. When the Miami Heat were in here, you heard "Let's Go Heat" cheering for the Heat. Their fans mob the place, but on the TV, when you're sitting at home, they can crank that volume up to make it seem like, oh, the Heat fans took over the arena. Now, I will tell you this, as a Nets fan that has been going to Barclays since 2013, back then, even in like 2015, even in 2018, other fan bases used to show up in Brooklyn and take over our arena. That's what happens when you're a new franchise. That's what happens when you're a new team. Look at some of these new, there's new teams in every league. Look at some of these new teams in the beginning, whether it's the Golden Knights, whether it's the Houston Texans. Look at these new teams in the beginning, whether it's the Seattle Kraken. And these new teams in the beginning, they struggle to build fans, but that's how it starts. They're building their fan base. These other teams have been established for years. That's when we're talking about the Knicks, and the Knicks fans are like, oh, we took over your arena. It was a home game. It was a home game. It's like, bro, the Knicks have been in New York for 90 years. The Nets have been in Brooklyn for 9. You should have 90% of the crowd in there, and we should only have 10. If you're looking at it like that, don't read into it. I'm telling you, as a Nets fan, someone that's at the game, someone that watches it on TV and has been going for years, they play it into the national audience. We are the villains. We are the ones that they hate. We're the super team, right? We're number 1 in the East without Kyrie. They're shook. Scary hours. They're like, how can the Nets be this good without Kyrie, without Joe Harris, without Nick Claxton? They do everything in their power in the national media to talk down on us, and they do the same thing right here in New York because New York is market 1, and all of these media people are Knicks fans. Back to what we missed. We start another win streak after we lose to Steph Curry and the Warriors. It was an off night. We beat the Cavs 109-99. We beat the Magic 115-113. We beat the Cavs again 117-112 in their place. We go and beat the Celtics 123-104 and beat the brakes off them at TD Garden. That was our most complete game. Clicking on all cylinders, and then we come back home last Saturday, and now we should talk about our first game on this pod. The Brooklyn Nets faced the Phoenix Suns at home Saturday, November 27th. We took an L. Something I can tell you about that game in that arena, there were a hell of fans for Devin Booker. There were kids lined up by the locker room exit entrance to get a picture with Book. Same way you heard Steph Curry chants, Book, Devin Booker, over here. Book, sign my shoe. It's Devin Booker. This is New York. National audience. Market 1. The main stage. There are people that buy 1 ticket a year to come to Barclays, and they choose the opponent that we're playing. Whether they're coming to see LeBron, whether they're coming to see Steph, whether they're coming to see Devin Booker, those people are allowed to buy tickets and fill the arena. It's okay. But what's not okay is the Nets were not able to hang with these guys at all. What I'll say about the Suns is they are back in championship mode. Sucks for them that Devin Booker got hurt, but that's the NBA. That's something I also tell you guys. Don't read too much in these standings and these teams and what people say, because the complexion of the league is going to change as guys get hurt. Damian Lillard's hurt. LeBron's got COVID. Karl Anthony Towns is supposed to be here tomorrow. He just hurt his back. It's the NBA. It's an 82-game season. Chill. But back to the Suns game. They shot better than us. They rebounded better than us. They played better defense than us. I thought for sure after the back-to-back with them playing the Knicks, I thought there was no way that Devin Booker was going to give us 30. Of course he did. He broke us off with exactly 30. Chris Paul had 22. Doesn't matter. KD had 39. KD was due for a 30, 40-point performance. But if you notice, Nets fans, We're not winning games with KD just carrying us. We're not winning games with KD just putting the team on his back. We need the full team. That's the reason that we have these veterans. That's the reason we have these guys that are depth pieces now that can help KD, because last year when Harden went down, when Kyrie went down, we watched the Nets lose because all we had was KD and no real bench. Back to the game. It's a tough loss, but it's a nationally televised game. It looks worse than it is. The national media is going to say, oh, the Nets can't beat any top teams. The Suns were smoking. They're still smoking. Did they lose yet? I think that game was game 16 in their win streak. They won every game in November. They didn't lose a game in November. That is a team that was in the finals last year. They got to the finals. We should have faced them, but this much separated KD's foot from the three-point line, and you know the rest of that story. Back to the other game that we should talk about. Against the New York Knickerbockers, the Manhattaners, the Midtown Madison Squares. A win is a win is a win. The Nets could have easily folded late in this game and gave this game up. I give the Knicks a hand for trying, for coming back. In that fourth quarter, the Knicks outscored the Nets 26-24. All the Knicks fans want to cry about is the refs. All the Knicks fans want to talk about are foul calls. Okay, cool. Here's the most important two calls of the game down the stretch. The technical on Julius Randle, and then the foul by Mitchell Robinson on James Johnson that basically lost the game for them. Both of those plays lost the game because the T put KD on the line, boop, boop, 2 free throws, and then Mitchell Robinson put James Johnson on the line, boop, boop, 2 free throws made, game. James Harden came out on fire. Thank you, Reggie Miller. Whatever he exactly said to James Harden, woo, made him go harder. The bearded one. He had damn near 30 in the first half. Vintage Harden. He had a putback dunk, step back threes, exactly what you want him to look like. Chat, I see y'all, and I will get to y'all when we go to voicemails and when we go to conversation at the end. Just getting through the talk of the games. A good win. And you know why it's a good win? It's the 4th win in a row against the Knicks. It's another win against the Knicks where they didn't have their full team. Neither do we. We beat them last year on the day that we traded for Harden. Reggie Perry was out there getting buckets against the Knicks. I don't want to hear it. We do not have to be quiet as Nets fans. We do not have to tuck our tails and be humble. We did that for years. Now, we have the better team in New York. We're number 1 in the standings. We have KD who wanted to come here and not Madison Square Garden. We have James Harden who got himself traded here. We have Kyrie waiting somewhere posting memes of Africans and Indians and the Matrix. That's fine. Let Kyrie do his thing. KD and Harden will lead with LaMarcus Aldridge, with Patty Mills, who has stepped up like crazy, with Cam Thomas, who we knew could do it. And now he's coming along. He's starting to do it. Going into that game, I tweeted at somebody. I said, this is a game that Cam Thomas should go for his career high. I think he had 12. His career high is 13. Close enough for me. What else from this game? It's just good to see role players like a James Johnson, Paul Millsap. Bruce Brown champed it out. Bruce Brown was hurt, but he wanted to play in this game. He wanted to play in the Boston game. That's where he's from. He didn't get to, but he wanted to play in this rivalry game, New York versus Brooklyn, because it means something to him, and he helped. He contributed. So the Nets are 15-6, first place in the East, without Joe Harris. Nick Claxton is in Long Island. He's with the Long Island Nets, or he's supposed to be practicing with the Nets, ramping up to come back. Joe Harris, they said 4 to 8 weeks. Hopefully it's 4 and not 8. He had surgery on his ankle to remove a chip out of his ankle. Okay, Kyrie is in Seton Hall watching basketball games. At least we know bro is alive, well, and moving, and we know that he's interested in basketball. There's a lot of talk about, does Kyrie love basketball? Did he fall out of love with the game? Does he not care about the game? Obviously, he cares about the game if he's going to Seton Hall, but he also cares about the stance he took, and I think he's going to die hard on that stance. I think Kyrie is the type that's just going to keep waiting and riding this thing out, and we will wait too. There's a lot of people that ask me questions about Kyrie's timetable for return. I have no answers for that, but what I've been putting out there as my guess is after the All-Star break, after Christmas, after the New Year, after Valentine's Day with his wife, after he spends the holiday with his family and kids, after his sister and dad's birthday, which we know is January like 10th through 12th because of last year he had his leave and went through the party. I think he's going to chill till that time. Now, do I think he's going to get a shot and come back in February? I can't call that. Do I think the mandate's going to change? I definitely don't think that. But I think the Nets could change their mind and say, okay, let him play on the road games. We need him. We need him. We can't beat these top flight teams, but at least we know where we stack up and where we measure up against the Steph Currys of the world, against the Devin Bookers of the world, against Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo and the Heat, against the Bucks with Giannis and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. We've already faced these guys. We've already played these teams. We've already played the Bulls and Hornets and lost to them. And we know where we measure up with our team as it's currently constructed. Help is on the way with Joe Harris and Nick Claxton, and could be the last infinity stone with Kyrie. Just wait on it. There's no reason to bug out. There's no reason to every loss go immediately to, oh, Kyrie, we need you. It's like a decision was made to play without Kyrie, and the Nets are doing just fine. They're not even doing just fine. They're doing better than ever. This is the best start in Nets history. I repeat, this is the best start in Brooklyn Nets history without Kyrie. So we got plenty of time. We are 21 games in out of an 82-game season. I think someone asked me, I think it's on a voicemail. We'll get to the voicemails in 1 second. Best start in Nets history. The Nets beat the Knicks 112-110. They lose to the Suns 113-107. We turned the ball over too much in that game to beat a team like that. A well-coached team. Monty Williams got them looking like they're right back in championship form. Could be representing the West in the finals again this year. So let's see. Voicemails. I want to play you guys voicemails just because I asked for them today and you sent them, and I appreciate them. A lot of them, were congratulating me. I think there's 3 good ones to play. So we'll start with this one. And 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, Keith. This is Alita from New Jersey. First of all, just wanted to give you a big shout out. It's nice to have another Nets fan on WFAN. Just a couple thoughts. I don't know what I think about this team right now. They're so up and down. It's always good to get a win against the Knicks, but that Suns game definitely put some doubt, I think, in myself and a lot of other Nets fans' minds. Just want to hear your thoughts. And then just quick question, when do you think is the final straw for Kyrie coming back? You think KD and Harden would take him back if he said he wanted to play about 2 weeks before the playoffs? I don't know how that would work. So, just want to hear your thoughts. Congrats again.
Thanks, Alita. I kind of was alluding to her voicemail. I think I had it in my head. The questions she asked were about this team. How do you feel about this team? How do I feel about the first place Nets being 15-6 with our best start ever? Like, I still have PTSD from older Nets teams where it was like we would just get smacked. I didn't even watch full Nets games. Like 2018, there were games that I was turning off at half because I'm like, we don't stand a chance. I'm cool. It is an amazing feeling to be a Nets fan, to see the New Jersey Nets colors and throwback jerseys come to life on Kevin Durant, James Harden, Patty Mills, LaMarcus Aldridge. It is a great feeling to be a Nets fan in this Nets world where now New York radio is saying, hey, we want to hear from other Nets fans. You guys have a good team. The Nets are in New York. Let's put a Nets fan on the radio. And I get to be that guy. It is a huge blessing. I'm having a blast rooting for the Nets, going to the Clays. The Clays is better this year. The giveaways, they're giving out a KD shirt. They hook up the fans as much as they can. The Brooklyn Brigade, the block, the new section is better than ever. It is a great time to be a Nets fan, and it is a great time to not worry about Kyrie Irving. Do I think she said in the voicemail, would like the cutoff be like 2 weeks from playoffs? Nah, I think that like 2 weeks from playoffs, we're looking at seeding. We're ramping up. You're in or you're out at that point. I think there's going to come the halfway point. Like I said, the All-Star game in the season, we'll see where we're at. We'll also see where we're at with the trade deadline. I don't know the exact date for the trade deadline, but you got to think about that too, right? In Marks we trust. I know people are talking about Kyrie getting traded. I just don't think there's anything behind that. Do you really think that Kyrie wants to play elsewhere? Do you really think that other teams want our problem that we have with Kyrie? which is he's unvaccinated, he takes time off, he does his own thing. No, it's like the market for him is small. And I hope he's chilling. I hope he's healthy. I hope he is working out and staying in shape so that he can come back and play. But he's ours, y'all. And we'll wait on him or we won't. When is the deadline? When is the deadline? When is the deadline? NBA trade deadline is... No, what did I click? I hate when I do this. I'm like live looking for answers. It doesn't matter. I'll get the trade deadline information for you. But you got to think about that. They're not trading Kyrie, in my opinion. I'll come back here on the pod. If they trade him, they better get us, I don't know, another big, another ball handler, something. There's no reason to trade one of the best players in the world that would have been in the top 75 if the NBA wasn't on their politics and whatnot.
Hey Keith, how's it going? Congrats on the gig at WFAN. It's been sick listening to you. I guess we be smoking that Knicks pack, and I don't understand. Like Evan, I guess made a point on this. I guess this would be the day after the game about how we're not really bragging about this win because how close it was and like how the fouls were like doled out at the end. Like we definitely got very lucky, but if it was flipped the other way, I feel like the Knicks fans would be all over. We beat the Nets. We beat you guys. Like, so why can't we do that a little bit? I mean, they have little brother syndrome, I guess, of the always trash talking. But, yeah, no, I just wish that we could have gloated a little more in the glory of victory.
Now, as far as like celebrating the win, Evan Roberts is my guy. Him and I are two completely different Nets fans, though. He had me call into the show yesterday because he put out a tweet leaving the arena, right? And when you're leaving the arena, if you've ever been to, I've been to Nets versus Knicks in MSG, and I've been to that game at Barclays. It's always mostly Knicks fans, and when the Knicks lose, they're hella Aggie. And when I mean they're Aggie, they're agitated, they're damn near ready to fight. So I understand Evan leaving, wanting to get home safely and saying, take the win, shut our mouths, and move on. That is being beat into submission as well, like being told that, oh, that you're a dweeb Nets fan, the Nets don't matter, they had to build a super team, they'll never run New York, you'll never have any fans. I feel like part of that is Evan being beat over the head with that, but also it's the reality of where he was tweeting from. He's just trying to get out of Barclays. Someone was texting me, they're chanting bing bong, I just saw somebody get pushed. I don't know, I'm sure the security held it down, but you can understand the difference between leaving the arena surrounded by Knicks fans, feeling that energy, versus me. I was out on the radio. Thank God it was an awesome time being on before the Nets game and after. I just laughed. At all the Knicks fans. It was great. But my position was, don't go quietly, gloat. Because if it was the other way around, we wouldn't have heard we would have heard it every single day. We wouldn't have heard anything about the refs. It would have been, oh, the Knicks stole the game from the Nets. We took over their arena. It was all Knicks fans, New York forever. We run New York, blah, 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 blah. Like, nah. Stand up, poke your chest out a little bit, and be proud of your team. Be proud of the culture that we built. They're shook. You know why they're shook? Because we're doing this way faster than they ever could. You know why they're shook? Because they realize the tide is turning. There are little kids that are picking up the black and white hat instead of that blue and orange hat. These guys win one game against the Celtics this year, and what do? They do. They do a Side Talk NYC video. Boo, 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 boo. KD, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Do the Knicks run New York? Yo, nobody asked y'all to talk about us after you beat the Celtics. Good win. I watched that whole game. It was a great game. But when I saw that, they're always talking about the Nets. They're obsessed. The only time we talk about them is when we're playing them and when we beat them, for the most part, or when we're responding to tweets about our arena or attendance or nonsense. Be proud, be happy. If you have a friend that's a Knicks fan, my dad is a Knicks fan, my brother was a Knicks fan, I have a bunch of friends that were texting me that are Knicks fans, crybabies, sore losers right after the game. Man, be proud and stand on it, because it's another 2.5 months until the Knicks play the Nets again. Be proud. Stick your chest out. Let them know it's a Nets world, our world, Nets world. These Knicks fans hate it. They think about it all day. They're like, man, maybe I should become a Nets fan. It is kind of cool over there.
Yo, what's up? Talking Nets. What's up, Keith? First and foremost, I just want to give Keith a huge shout-out Congratulations on the new gig at WFAN. Nice work, brother. Huge supporter of you and the pod. Love the pod. Love the personality you bring. Keep it up, man. Also, just want to talk a little Nets real quick. Keith, what are your thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets not being able to seem to beat a more championship-level team? Let me know.
I've already kind of alluded to that. I guess, I screened these voicemails, so I had them in my head. I don't care if you can't beat a championship team in November because these championship teams might not be in the championship in June. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are kind of overreacting, assuming that because the Warriors are hot, because the Suns are hot, and we can't beat them yet, that there's no chance we can beat them down the road. There are 6 more months after this month to play basketball. 6 months from right now. A whole half a year for this team to get better, for this team to change, for us to make trades, for us to get Joe Harris back, for us to get Nick Claxton back, and maybe get Kyrie Irving back. Reminder, this is plan B. Plan A was to have the big three all healthy going into this season. We're playing through a pandemic. Did we know this would shake out this way with Kyrie and the vaccine? I think we had a little inkling that bro wasn't going to be going for it. But whatever, we're in first place. We have 15 wins. I don't care if we can't beat who people think is a championship team in November. It is a little concerning that we can beat these lower level teams and we can only beat them like scrapping with them to the end, like Orlando or the Cavs are better than people give them credit for. But like Orlando is a perfect example. The Pacers, when we're in tough games with teams like that and we have to scrap to win, on one hand, it's good that we have the will to win, that we're not losing games late. Shout out to Coach Nash. He's been better with his rotations. Got to still get a little bit better. That Knicks game, I was getting a little scared at the end because you got a guy like Tibbs versus Nash. The experience is 20 times greater for Tibbs. But the Nets will figure it out, and that's what the regular season is for, figuring it out. So I'm not reading too much into the fact that, the Nets lost to the Warriors and the Suns. Those are the two top teams in the West. They're never going to be able to beat them in the finals. Never say never. A lot is going to change. It is November, now December. We cannot speak on what's going to happen in June. I said it on WFAN yesterday. I'm like, the Bucks and the Suns played in the finals last year. Going into last season, they said it would be Lakers-Nets. Where were those teams? Nets got bounced in the second round. LeBron and them got bounced, I think, in the first round by the Suns. Don't read too much into it. It's a journey, y'all. It's an 82-game season. Now, that's it for voicemails. Let's go to the chat. Let me scroll back through the chat and see what y'all chatting. Okay. More congratulations, Jared Williams. Appreciate you. Jared says, I understand you got to do what you got to do. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Don't feel bad for me. I put in a lot of work. I put in a lot of time. I was talking to Michael Scotto from Hoops Hype. He's always at the Brooklyn Nets game, and he's like, bro, you busted your ass with talking Nets. Like, do your thing with it. And I'm like, I promise you I will. Like, I don't do this for me. I do this for us. I do this for other Nets fans because coming out of the Yankee world, y'all know there is 20 different Yankee podcasts, Instagram pages, Twitter accounts. Yankees Twitter is thousands of people talking about the Yankees. I want to get there for the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe it never happens, but it starts with stuff like this. All love. Appreciate everything you do. Got it. Much respect. Jason Kidd when he played. Yeah, that Jason Kidd is why I became a Nets fan. I could have went and rooted for the Wizards or stayed with the Bulls or even jumped on the Kobe and Shaq bandwagon. I said, nah, we're good. I don't know what point you're talking about exactly, Keith McPherson. You have a point. Hopefully I made a couple points that you've heard throughout this episode. Oh, my God. Bird's Eye View, dude, just went back in. Love and heard what you had to say. Keep doing you, bro. Yeah, Bird's Eye View was like, I need a Talking Nets episode. It hurts, man, when I see people like, I miss Talking Nets, or I need a Talking Nets episode. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to be there for y'all, but behind the scenes, there are things I got to get worked out and figured out, and they're on the way. I can guarantee you this. I'll give y'all at least one episode a week whenever I can fit it in. I'm still figuring out my work schedule and stuff and when I got to be in the station. Yeah, if everyone could watch every single channel just like your channel and Yes Network, sure. Oh, Julia, what up? She said, I keep forgetting we don't have Claxton. Exactly. Claxton was our starting center the first 3 games. We relied on him. We thought he would be a big part of this team this year. He got sick. Some other things went on. He's on his way back. Scout's not English. Respect you too, bro. Appreciate you, man. And earlier when I saw your tweet about like we're not getting the pods and the updates and the content, I just was like kind of defeated. Like, of course I want to be able to keep this thing going, but I'm only one guy. I literally have a different job now, different responsibilities. I have to figure out how to keep Talking Nets going, and I will. It's being figured out. Let's see. Lucky for you, Keith McPherson, as a Knicks fan. Fam, tried our best. What else? I respect you. I appreciate the shout out. Hope you enjoyed the honeymoon. Still in Brooklyn from the UK. That too. I know you're across the pond, man. I appreciate the UK fans, the UK Nets fans. Like I do this for y'all too. Nets World. What up, Keith Nets World? All right. Glad you're back. BK Nets work. Make sure y'all follow them on Instagram, Twitter. Look them up. They make good stuff too. Show love. Let's see. We didn't suffer through 12 and 70 to stay quiet when we're on top of those Knicks fans. They can stay salty. Yes. Akiva Cohen. Yeah, exactly. The 12 and 70 season, I didn't really even bother with. I remember like that was a year where you don't tell anybody you're a Nets fan. When the Nets are struggling, you don't wear Nets gear outside of the house. You don't poke your chest out and be like, yeah, I'm a Nets fan. And you're like, they're the worst team in the league. Akiva follows it up. He says, some Nets fans are way too pessimistic. We have to appreciate the fact that we built a potential dynasty from 12 and 70, 10 years ago, to trading all of our picks. That's amazing. Yeah, exactly, bro. That year, I think that was the year before I graduated college. I remember like Big Sean was performing at halftime of one of the Nets games. I think it was Nets versus Pistons, him being from Detroit. And I'm at school and I'm trying to get people to go to the Nets game with me, take the train up. They're all Knicks fans, are all hating on the Nets, and I couldn't find anyone to go with me, so I ended up not going. But I always remember, like, damn, I wanted to go see the Nets back then, and no one wanted to go. I think there were like $25 tickets, and you get to see Big Sean at halftime, and nobody was down. All right, y'all, it's time to wrap this thing up. I appreciate you. You don't know how much I appreciate you. I don't get to WFAN. I don't get to where I am professionally without Talking Nets, without the Talking Nets fam, without the support of everyone that subscribes, listens, downloads the pods. Leave a review. That's the next thing. So the last review was from last season, June. We're starting new here. Talking Nets is its own brand, it's its own thing. It may become part of another brand, but we need reviews. If I want to bring in some popular guests, the first thing they're going to do is look at those reviews and ratings. I think we have 106. Let's try and get to 125 by the end of 2021. And I know there's not that much for you to go off of, for you to write about, but maybe write about me or write about what you hope for Talking Nets or write about how much you like Talking Nets, appreciate Talking Nets. If it's your favorite Nets podcast or your favorite Nets podcast or your favorite podcast period, write that out there so people can see it publicly. I know it's for Apple users only, but find somebody with an iPhone if you don't have one and go do that. Once again, hit the merch shop. You can see I'm wearing one of these. This is on the merch shop for James Harden. We go hard with We Got Harden when we signed Harden. I came up with that idea. Hit the merch store. Stuff is on sale from Black Friday to Christmas. Shop.johnboymedia.com. Go to podcast merch. Hit Talking Nets. You'll find all of our Nets World stuff, the KD, Brooklyn Coogee silhouette. There's some cool stuff on there. Make sure you subscribe, again, to the pod. If you're not subscribed, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Twitch, subscribe to the actual podcast. It helps us out. Leave a review. Leave a 5-star rating. Call the voicemail. That's how you can be heard. This is our show. I literally screen the voicemails and play whoever leaves a good voicemail. If there, sometimes there's some ones that you can't really make out, but I probably play 90% of the voicemails. 201-870-0461. I'll put you right on the show. Here's a prompt for next week, right? Someone told me if you're doing voicemails, you're asking for voicemails, put out a prompt. So here's my prompt for next week. What do you want to see more of from Talking Nets? Anything. It could be anything on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, podcasts. If there's guests you want to see, Call in, leave a voicemail with your ideas and your thoughts of where you want Talking Nets to go in 2022. That's all I've got. We're right under an hour. I appreciate you guys pulling up, interacting in the chat, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I appreciate everyone listening. I hope you were excited when you saw, boop, new podcast, Talking Nets, in your podcast feed. I think I made 0 people Spotify Wrapped. That's okay. We took a month off. But I appreciate you listening and downloading and supporting. Seriously, I don't get to do any of this without your support, without your time, and without you showing love. So I appreciate that. I will be at the game, not tomorrow. Somebody grab me a Kevin Durant tee. I will be at the game Saturday against the Bulls. You will hear me. You will see me going, let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.